The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh, got my hustle on, no imitation of that. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throb in my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too feeble and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Earnestly Podcast coming to you Tuesday night, January 28th, 2025. Good Lord, I can't believe it's right. Oh, end of January already. Can't believe it. Anyway, it's been a little while since this guy's gone on the show. He's a frequent flyer, but it's been a couple months actually. My man, Rob the Genius, host of the Robert Genius podcast, also the co-host of the Mindless Wrestling Podcast. Rob, what's up? Happy New Year to you, man.
Hey, man, Happy New Year, man. Good to be back.
We've kind of cooled off a little bit on some of these appearances last couple months, though. I know. Was it the election? Was it I don't know what it was. Maybe life got in the way a little bit, but we cooled off a little bit, man.
Yeah. And because honestly, I haven't been recording my own thing as much because of because I was always using, I was Spotify for podcasters, and they completely just fucked that whole system over.
I saw you drop a few recently, though. Did you fix the problem, though? Did you finally figure it out?
Well, I just use I use the audio recorder on my laptop.
Okay.
And so it's just with that, if you stop and pause it, and then, but then if you click on something that has like a video or whatever, then it stops the recording, and then so I can't do things the way I prefer, because the way I had it on the old Spotify thing, I could record it in pieces and then put it together in an episode, which is what anybody who listens to me know that's what I prefer to do.
Yeah.
So I didn't have because just talking for an hour straight is just I mean. Well,
We're just do 30 minutes then. Let's do an hour straight. Do 30 minutes.
And that's what I end up. The most recent stuff I've done, that's what I've done. Just kept it shorter.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Honestly, I get, man, it's weird. It's just them just screwing that whole thing up, or doing what they did. It just, in a lot of ways, it discouraged me.
No, I don't blame you, brother. I don't blame you. Like some of the folks that doesn't know, this is podcast, which you should check out for the records. Really great stuff. Rob would, either if he did it once a week or once every 2 weeks, he would do segments separately, of course, different days of the week, and then when he's all done, he'll pull all together into one episode and put it out to the masses. But Rob is also not very, I guess, familiar with the production side of things like the podcast. So Spotify, and before that, what was the company? Oh, something A.
Anchor.
Thank you, Anchor. Anchor used to be able to had a very beta way of doing things, so very simple way of recording that made it each people who are just getting into the podcast game how to record stuff. And then Spotify brought them up about 2 years ago, and I guess Spotify has now pivoted off that whole thing now, which I find very discouraging, to be honest with you, as someone who actually believes in the podcast medium and been doing it for 14 years now. It's kind of discouraging to see that, man, honestly. They pull the rug from you guys, man. Right, man.
Oh, man. Because well, what happens when people buy stuff out, and they consolidate, and so yeah, it sucks, because like for me, I prefer to not do everything all at once, just because I don't always have guests, and also it gave me time just to think about things more before I talked about them, and and then if something happened that basically changed the whole story, it gave me time to re-record or whatever,
Yeah.
So just doing it all in one shot is for me. Yeah, I just I don't like doing it this way. And then it's just the whole thing just. And for me, I'm one of those people when I get locked into a way of doing things and it's working, and then
you don't want to pivot. Yeah, I don't blame you.
yeah, and then because then
I'm the same way too. I'll be honest with you.
So to anybody who listens to me normally, my apologies. Just that you just I just hate the way the stupid thing works now. Oh man,
we'll figure it out, brother. We'll figure it out, man. We'll figure it out. I mean, you're still doing it. It's just not as often, and it's a little more labor of love now. I guess a little more to get there. And we have a lot to talk about on the podcast today. We're going to preview Royal Rumble. That's on this Saturday, actually. Wow, it came fast. Also, really weird seeing Royal Rumble in February. It's always January, but this year's in February now. So we'll talk about that. Watch the Commanders, maybe the MC Talent game. We'll talk about their season. We wrap that up. But first, so I want to get this out of the way first and foremost because we, you and I has had some great banter on this podcast last couple of years. We love talking about wrestling. We love talking about sports, all that. We also love talking politics. You and I do vote the same way, but we do also have very different not ideologies. That's the wrong word to use. Different processes, I guess, how we look at the broader nature of politics, particularly in the Democratic Party. Now, I'm not a registered Democrat. You are. But I have voted Democrat for the last, I'll say since 2008, pretty much, or 2006 even, going into the midterms. And I've probably, obviously I've already said I'm a center left guy. Come from a conservative background, but I've been pretty much voting left for the last 20 years now. You are what's the word to use? Born a wool Democrat. You make no apologies about that. You've made it on this podcast. You've been very, very, very. I won't say stubborn, but you're a staunch Democrat. You believe in the process of the Democratic Party and all that. And we've had some good conversations on social media with that about the future of the party as a whole. We consider talking about Donald Trump and what he's doing and all that stuff, but at this point now, we have 4 years ahead of us to dissect that, and we'll get to that down the road. I want to talk to you mainly about the Democratic Party post-election, where this party is right now, where it's going, where you want it to go, and whatnot. Let me ask you this first. Were you shocked that Kamala Harris lost the election to Donald Trump in November?
No. I was. Yeah, I was. No, I wasn't shocked. Because remember, I told you, I think a few months back, that just the precedent of either challenging or getting rid of an incumbent president has never worked. So, no, I was hopeful towards the end because, to me, I thought there was a clear enough contrast just from what she was saying versus what he was saying, and from and all of that. I figured that would have made the difference, but but here's the thing. There's a section of I don't think I said with you when me and Jim were on with you. I said if enough white people wanted to vote for Trump, he was going to win. And that's pretty much what happened. Because he went full racist, and going full racist is, I think I said this before, going full racist is pretty undefeated. And that's one of those things that we don't like to talk about, but going full racist, if that section of white voters, if they're out for blood, and if, and if they're feeling enough resentment about things, going full racist it's a pretty guaranteed winner. And then, and you know what? And I think some of us made the mistake of thinking that something like that wouldn't work this time. And I should say he went racist and transphobe because those, anti-transgender ads were all over the place.
Very effective. Very effective.
And that's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad because that's pure hatred, and it's false accusations against people who are just trying to live their lives and figure out who the hell they are in the world. And it's just sad. And it's sad that it was effective. And, it really is.
There's a myriad of reasons I think Democrats lost. I've done autopsies on this podcast since the election. I know my friend Mark Francois regular this podcast as well too, who's also a very massive liberal, and we did an episode about 2 days after the election doing an autopsy and many things. Some things you may agree with, some things you may not agree with. In terms of the messaging, of course, number one, I thought, okay, in the case of Kamala Harris's campaign, initially when she came out the gate, the messaging was good, talking about joy and painting the Trump campaign and Republicans is weird. The Tim Walz pick I love very much too. Also, I was on board. Once Tim Walz was picked, I was on board because as me, I'm a moderate, but I'm also populist. I believe in a hybrid economy. I believe that this government should work for all, not for some. And I felt like the things I still care about more than anything else, healthcare, for example, number one, issue going to the booth. The Democrats, while not perfect, are closer to where I am on healthcare than the Republicans are. And that's why ultimately I wrote that way than the other way around. I thought their messaging for the first month and a half of the campaign was actually right. And I thought once they pivoted off of that, and I know you and I had a lot of conversations about that leading to the election, that them pivoting away from the messaging of, for example, they were leaning in on a lot of populist things, talking about, price gouging and rent control and all this stuff, which is very popular. And the polling kind of favored her with those messaging. And then you saw the pivot where they started cozying with Liz Cheney. And I get the whole Republicans, that are anti-Trump, but I told you my thing was I was never about that part. I had no problem with Republicans building a coalition because hell, the Republicans had a building coalition with former Democrats, kind of loud. But I had a problem with not that. Look, you can't control who endorses you. That is what it is. But you can control who's stumping for you. And having Liz Cheney, and I'm not saying it's her fault, but having Liz Cheney, the father of the most unpopular vice president in history of this country, stumping for you, was kind of a bad look. And I say that because not because the Republicans on the side are saying that, but because the Democrats or people on the left are saying this now too also. And now they're already resistant to it. Go ahead.
I don't think it mattered. They did they did 2 rallies, man. 2. That didn't matter. Listen. When the other guy says they're eating the dogs, and people go for that, then that's not a fault of your messaging. Okay, right. When the other guy has basically a 1930 style Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden, and people go for that, there's no messaging against that. You can't. You got nothing. Okay, if they do that, you having a healthcare plan and talking about it, which she did all the time. She never stopped talking about her healthcare plan. She never stopped talking about her housing plan. She did all that up to the very end. But if the other guy says they're eating the dogs and people believe it and they go for that, then it doesn't matter. It really, if the other guy is saying that they're giving your kids sex change operations in school,
I'll give you this,
and people go for that. If he says it and people go for that,
I'll give you this, Rob.
Then it doesn't matter,
right? I'll give you this, Rob, and this is true. The standards for both parties are different. Are different. The standards that the Democrats are upheld to by their own constituents versus the standards by Trump and those folks on that side are definitely different. Whereas Democrats have to find ways to appease everybody. Republicans, they can agree with you on 5% of things, but they'll take the 5% and run with it. You know what I'm saying? So I think the standards are. I agree with you on that thing. The standards are different, but the country's changing too, also, and I don't know where the party is right now currently, because there's definitely a crossroads right now. clearly something happened here, because for Trump to not only win him win the election is not a surprise at all. That's what you even said yourself. That's not a surprise. But him win the popular vote, and look, I'm not saying it's an overwhelming mandate, but it's big enough to to cause some concern here. Joe Biden wins by 7 million votes in 2020. Trump wins by nearly 3 million in 2024. That's a 10 million vote swing.
Yeah, but that's a little bit misleading.
Okay, explain.
Because number one, okay, so there were at least 3 or 4. There were like 3 or 4 swing states where she got more votes than Joe did.
Right.
But she still lost the states. Which is what I'm saying is when you go full racist, going full racist gets people to come up off the couch.
Do you think that that's the sole reason that she lost?
There are always a multiple.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I don't disagree that that's baked in that. But I feel like it's a little bit unfair to the voters who, by the way,
I'm not. Let me be clear. I'm not fair to voters. They own this. No. See, one thing. No, one thing that I'm on now more than ever. You own what you voted. You own your vote.
You should. You also own what you vote.
No, you own your vote. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Because you know what really sealed it for me? My daughter voted for the first time. Okay. And we, neither me nor her mother, we did not hit her over the head with political views. We did not tell her who to vote for. We didn't, like she knows that we pay attention to this stuff. And so she watches some news here. She reads some stuff here. She watched the speeches. She watched the debates. But she pretty much did her own homework. Okay.
Right.
And there was never any question for her. She figured out very quickly whose policies were more logical and made more sense and all of that. We didn't have to talk to her. We didn't have to convince her. We didn't have to debate with her about anything. And this was her first time voting. Okay. So for these people who are 35, 45 years old, who've been voting for 10 years and 20 years, for them to be like, oh, I don't know. Oh, no. We're not doing that. No, I'm not here for that anymore. Okay. That's an excuse. That's a cop out. Okay. You can find out every bit of information about these people's policies. It was all right there. Okay. If you didn't know, it's because you didn't do the homework, because they told you. They both look. Okay. They were both very clear about what they intended to do had they won the election. So if you were confused, then you didn't do the homework. And I think a lot of people, it wasn't even about being confused or not. I think a lot of people, again, there was a lot of resentment. Because I tell people, you can learn everything you want about this country about when it comes to matters of race and social progress. You can learn everything you need to know by studying Reconstruction of the post-Civil War period. Because during that period, there were black senators, U.S. senators. Mm-hmm. Okay, there were black people playing Major League Baseball back then. We talk about Jackie Robinson, right? Well, Jackie Robinson wasn't the first black guy to play Major League Baseball. He was the first black guy after they let us back in, because we were already there for a while and they threw us out. There were black people holding all types of elected offices all throughout the South during Reconstruction. So the progress had been made, and then they took it from us because, there are some people down there didn't like that we had made the progress.
Right.
And then, there was a disputed presidential election, and part of the compromise to settle the election was that they took the federal troops out of the Confederacy. And once that happened, all of the progress was wiped away, and so it was taken from us. Okay?
So let me ask you a question then, real quick, because I sense that, and I'm also, friends with people who also who actually also share your belief and your energy with what you got to own that. You voted for that, you own that. What do I say to a voter who is a registered Democrat, for example, and some of them friends of mine actually who are registered Democrats, have been voting Democrat their entire life, and then this time decided to vote for Trump, and I know they're not, and for the record, I know they're not racist. How do we?
They're idiots.
Wow. Correct. Because the economy,
no. Listen, man.
No, okay. Yeah.
Okay. Again, if you've been voting for a long time,
Mhm.
and if you've been voting for a long time, then you know that when Democrats are in office, the economy is better because you experienced it. So
they're saying that they're not. They're saying that they're not feeling that this time around.
Well, then they're idiots.
No, and for the record, this is why the standard thing's important too. Also, this is why you and I are going to have agreement here, because by the same metrics that Trump voters said that Trump economy was great because X, Y, and Z data. Well, that same data they used in 2017 to 2020, you apply that to Joe Biden as well too. Also, it's the same, not better. And yet, but those same voters who are, and again, these are the people who are in the coalition for many years, just decided for whatever reason to say no. We're going to go other guy this time around.
Well, first, I'll take
some I know who are personally are not even racist. I know they're not racist.
You sure about that?
Yeah, I'm 1,000%. I put my life on that. My life. Yeah.
Okay, because I think one thing that we don't think about, man, people. Well, maybe they're not racist, but they might be transphobic, or they might be sexist.
Some of them say it's more of the it's the.
If they say
it's the milk thing, I mean, I'm not saying it's right, but it's what they say.
Okay, if they're saying the economy, I'm here. I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah.
Either they're lying to you or they're stupid.
Right.
Okay. If you've been at this for a while, and then either you're lying or you're stupid. If you're saying it was the economy, all right, and that's what it is, and period. And I would say that to their faces.
Yeah.
And if they want to swing at me, they can swing. Okay. All right. Because I'm sorry. It's just what it is. There's too much information. There's too much available information for you to be making that type of decision. There just is. So I'm sorry. Again, you got to own that. And then again, these are the people. I'm sorry. At some point, you gotta
own it.
You gotta own it. And okay, so either you're not doing the homework, or you're lying to somebody, or something. All right, at this point, because I'm sorry, you can't be 10, 20, 30 years into voting and claiming to be knowledgeable.
But there's obviously a disconnect somewhere between the Democratic apparatus and the voter. There's clearly a disconnect, and it has been forming for, of course, the last decade, even before Trump.
Well, I can tell you what. You know what happened?
Tell me.
Obama said if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. Obama said there's a history between black people and the police, and that turned people off. Okay, and and then we nominated Hillary, and people say yay, woman president, but when it's time to actually vote for a woman president,
I think a lot of folks were, especially 2016. I know you and I are gonna have contention about this one. Are still pretty pissed off with the way Bernie Sanders was handled.
Well, then they're idiots. Then they're idiots. I'm sorry. He got blown out twice. It was his own damn fault. Okay, and I'm sorry. Okay, when you don't open, when your people tell you, boss, we need to open some offices in some of these black precincts, and when you don't, okay, you don't, and you do that twice, and he had the same amount of money. He had the same money Hillary did. He had more money than Joe, and he got the shit kicked out of him both times.
Grassroots too, yeah.
He got the shit kicked out of him both times. Okay, so no, I'm sorry. Here's the difference, okay? Because there are people who've run previously and they didn't win, and then they came back later and they won. Joe Biden ran a couple of times before he finally won the nomination. Okay.
Yeah.
So people do that. People lose nominations, come back, run again, and then they get it right. Mitt Romney ran twice before he got it. Okay. John McCain ran more than once and before he won it. Okay. If you lose it once and you come back and you do the exact same thing you did the first time, and then you get beat again, and you get beat, and then you get beat the second time, you get beat by somebody who didn't even have that much money.
Right.
Joe barely had any money in 2020. He didn't start getting any money until he won South Carolina.
But
Okay,
so was Donna Brazil lying about what she said about in 2016 that they kneecapped Bernie when she was head of the Democratic chair?
because the fundraising she wasn't lying, but it didn't matter because Bernie had fucked up strategy. So I mean, that's like saying, well, the refs made a couple bad calls in favor of the Chiefs, but you threw 3 interceptions. Okay, I mean,
That's a pretty decent analogy.
well, I mean, okay, or like, well, look, Sunday, like, I mean, yeah, they made some bad calls, but that dude could have caught the ball on 4th down, even though Allen threw that wild pass because he had to throw the ball because they were on his ass. But the ball was right there, and the dude could have caught the ball. It was right there to him, and he didn't catch it.
What is the disconnect with Bernie Sanders in the black community? I'm still trying to figure it out for years. I can't
Because he doesn't acknowledge racism. Basically, he puts everything on the class bucket, and he just ignores. Yeah, he doesn't acknowledge it well enough. And he was running against people. Joe Biden has been running for office, campaigning in black neighborhoods for 30 years. And regardless of what the national media says about Joe Biden has a long history campaigning for black votes. And look, there are ups and downs, as with any politician. But Joe Biden spoke out on the Senate floor against apartheid before it was cool to do that type of thing. Okay. When Obama was running for re-election in 2012, and he was a little skittish about going to the NAACP because he didn't want to, because Obama was always trying to, thread that needle. Joe went to the NAACP, and Joe fit in just fine. He knew everybody. Okay. And the same thing with Hillary. Like, whatever you think about Hillary and all of that, like, Bill and Hillary have been campaigning for black people's votes for 30 some years. They have relationships with local politicians. They have relationships with people in the party. Okay. There are people in the Democratic Party who would vouch for Joe Biden and who would vouch for Bill and Hillary. Bernie did not have those relationships. And that's a choice. And so, because remember that, like, it took a while for people like Clyburn to endorse Obama because they had relationships with Bill and Hillary. So they didn't look. People like Clyburn, they didn't come on for Obama until, basically once they saw he was actually could win. Okay,
right.
They didn't, but Bernie has never forged those relationships with people. He just doesn't recognize the race, whether he actually understands it or not, but he doesn't recognize it. He doesn't speak on it to anyone's satisfaction. And so he turned off a lot of people through that. People who have been in the trenches for decades, just were turned off by him because because he came off as very dismissive of it. And then there's also the fact that he doesn't have much of a track record. He's been in Congress for 30 years, and like, you got other people who have legislation to their name that they, like with Joe Biden. Joe Biden had the Violence Against Women Act, right? That was a big thing that he got across the finish line. Bernie has no major legislation that he can say he got across the finish line, and that's another thing. So, and then also, he plays kind of fast and loose with party rules. He's an independent, but then he goes to all the Democrat fundraisers. Okay. And also, he pulls some little, local political games so that he basically sabotages the Democratic nominees in Vermont so that there isn't one on the ballot on election day. He's done that a few times. And again, and also, by the way, this is another important fact. This year in the election this year, Kamala Harris got more votes in Vermont than Bernie did.
Did Bernie did what in his 2024?
Yeah. She got more votes for president than he got for his Senate reelection. So, so there are a lot of different things. And look, this is the stuff I'm saying. You got to be you do got to be a little deeper in the weeds,
right?
To know some of the stuff I'm saying here.
So if someone hears an interview, like for example, this conversation we're having right now about this, and they say, "Oh, this guy's is this a Democratic shill?" What do you say to that?
Tell me what I said that was factually incorrect.
Okay.
I mean, if anything I said is factually incorrect, tell me. That's my if pretty, it's that simple. I always say, tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm lying.
And you are a data guy, so I mean, you go with the facts and figures.
And my thing is, look, my thing with primaries is very simple. Look, all right, I support in 2004. I supported John Edwards in 2004, and I went, and you know what? He didn't win, and when he didn't win, we didn't cry about it. We went and we voted for John Kerry. All right, we didn't cry about it. All right, in 2008 was a very bitter campaign between Hillary and Obama. Very bitter campaign.
Who'd you vote for in primary?
I voted for Obama. In fact, it's funny because, to me, it was a coin flip. I literally decided in the booth. Okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Because I mean, they have the same beliefs.
Well, Hillary also was the maiden name. Obama was. There's the attraction to having a black president too at the time. Also, let's not kid ourselves.
And that's what decided it, to be honest.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because I got in. Because to me, like and being perfectly honest, all things were equal between the two of them. And then I got in there, and I was like, "What?" And it was just like, "What the hell you think you're gonna do?" Okay. And that's what it was. And that's what it was. And look, and honestly, look, if all things are equal between the two candidates, it's perfect, in my opinion. It's perfectly fine to do that if all things truly are equal for you between the two candidates. And that's what I did. But that was a very bitter campaign. Very bitter.
It really was.
And yet, when it was over, Hillary got on board, and she didn't undermine anything. She didn't sabotage anything. And
well, to Bernie's credit, also he did as well too. He endorsed Hillary Clinton. He endorsed Joe Biden.
He fed in 2016 in particular. He fed into all of that. The process was unfair type of stuff.
Because there is some truth to that too. Also, to be fair,
how was it unfair to him?
According to Donna Brazil, this happened. According to Hillary, got kneecapped. Well, now we agree or disagree on that, but there are Democratic surrogates who have said on record that he was kneecapped. Whether or not it was legal or not, he did get kneecapped.
Yeah, I think they're full of shit. So
maybe they are, but this is what they've said through the years and haven't changed their story since 2017. But that's all. It is what it is. Kamala Harris. The rumors are she may run for governor of California down the road. Some of that. Is her political career over?
I think if she wants to run for governor, I think she can do that.
I think she'll win. I think she'll win too.
Yeah, but it's hard to come back from losing a general election like the first time out.
But I don't think they're gonna blame her. I don't think they're gonna blame her for this loss, though. I think you're gonna hate hearing this, buddy. But this is Joe Biden's loss.
Well, I think you should have stayed in it. I mean, because again, I told you the history. There's no, the history is moving on from the incumbent. It never worked.
Rob, you love that history, don't you?
Yeah. That's the prologue,
I get it. Brother, I get it. But at the same time, what I've been telling you for the last year or two now, things are weird now that I'm not saying you can't use history, but I wouldn't lean on it in the same way I would have done, say, maybe 10, 15 years ago. Because of
I do, because again, resentment has been winning presidential campaigns. Reagan ran on resentment against black people. Okay, the Negroes were getting too much welfare. That was a big part of Ronald Reagan's campaign. Okay,
I mean, there's no history about 34-time, two-time impeached, 34-count felony against the former president of the United States, winning a re-election after losing 2020. There's no history of that other than Grover Cleveland.
There's a history of people running racist campaigns and winning, and ultimately, racist people want to be racist. Okay, I mean, and I mean that's what it could look. You know what I mean? I know nobody wants to hear that, but again, I go back to Reconstruction. I mean, and no, we're not evolved. We're not evolved. We're not more intelligent than we were then. We're not.
How should Joe Biden be remembered?
I think, well, the one thing I'll say this. I think in terms of accomplishing things, I think he was a great president. I think he's a top 10 president, and I would challenge anybody to name.
I'll say you've been saying that, you've been consistent on that top 10 thing for a while.
And I would challenge anybody to name 10 who were better. Give me 10 who were better, and that's all. And I challenge, and not people again, not vibes, because JFK was not better. Okay, people, we man, through we love JFK, and it's kind of but it's vibes. Okay. Find me 10 presidents who accomplished things for the good things. Find me 10 presidents who accomplished more good things than him. That's my challenge to anybody who disputes what I'm saying. Find me 10 who accomplished more good things through legislation and than him, and through just agency practice than him. Whether it's capping insulin for seniors, or forgiving student loan debt, or getting those black farmers, some of that settlement money that they've been waiting on forever from the USDA, or, helping Ukraine, or, getting us out of the pandemic, or just being a good, decent human being to LGBT folks. Okay. I mean, I can, I can come up with more stuff. I have to go, look up a bunch more stuff, but there's a lot of other things. So find me 10. Tell me 10 who did more good things for people in office.
All right.
He walked a picket line with the UAW. All right, as president of the United States. Okay. They did more for labor than any administration in years. Okay. So again, just find me 10. Find me 10 who did more.
All right. What's next Democratic Party? What's the next move? Because I've been saying the podcast, and I'll ask you here, that this election should be a wake up call, for the party. When I say party, I mean the apparatus, not the social supporters, the apparatus. I've said post-election, post-mortem, the autopsy should be that at this point, the Chuck Schumers, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Bidens, the Clintons, and I even threw in Obama's name, that this should be the pivot to move off of that now and start analyzing what's the future of this party, because clearly those names did not help this case in 2024.
Well, okay, because I always caution against overreacting, because okay, in the 80s it looked like they were never going to win the presidency again.
Yeah.
Okay. After 2004, there was serious talk about permanent Republican majority. After 2008, there was serious talk about the Republican Party is dead in the water. Right? There is, it don't take but 2 years. Because look, I mean, after 2008, people were saying the Republican Party was dead in the water. 2010, they won the House. We were shocked in 2016 when Trump won, and then 2 years later, Democrats won the House. Okay. 2 years is a long time. 4 years is an even longer time. Because look, you don't know what's going to be the important issue of the day. Right? You don't know what it's going to be.
Right. And
look, and COVID literally happened in 2020. Right? Before 2020, there wasn't, COVID didn't exist, and it completely changed the landscape of everything. So the whole, the most important thing is whatever, you got whatever the prevailing issue is in the midterms, they need to be on top of it. And then whatever the prevailing issue is in 2028, they need to be on top of it. And right now, we don't know what that is. So reacting to what happened in 2024, spending too much energy on what happened in 2024 is a good way to end up losing future elections.
Yeah, I think right now at this point for the Democratic Party, they need to, the time for pivoting, the time for evaluating was November 6th, the night after the election, the day after the election. Figure out where the hell to go. Who you think are the stars of the party? Who do you think are the stars you're looking at?
Well, see, that's part of the problem. Well, because so for me,
yeah, for you,
all right, because there are people who actually do work, and then there are people who just run off at the mouth and don't really do anything. And some of those people who run off at the mouth often undermine the effort, everyone else's work. So if you're asking me, like right now, I like Crockett in Congress. I like Lauren Underwood.
Jasmine Crockett. Yep.
Yeah, and Lauren Underwood. They both actually they do work. They don't just run them out, and they don't undermine the party. I wasn't big on AOC for a long time. I'm starting to come around on her some more recently. Mainly because she scored a lot of points with me when she called out the bullshit when they knifed Joe in the back last year.
You're still mad about that, aren't you?
Yeah.
You were completely against that thing from the word go.
Because I told you history doesn't work, and they got spooked by one debate. Now I'll blame Joe for this. He should not have had a damn debate in June. Whoever convinced him to do that needs to never work in politics ever again. Okay, that was a horrible mistake. They should have never done that, because that opened the door for all these people to basically kick him off the ticket too. So that was, if you want me to blame him for something, I would blame him for that. He should not have had no debate in June. That was a fatal error. But look, I got nothing for Nancy now. And it's funny because there was a report about there was a couple articles a few weeks ago that she was basically shocked that Joe don't fuck with her no more. And it
yeah, everybody saying that.
And it and the Jill don't fuck with her no more either. And like, what the hell do you expect?
Paul's dirty business, brother.
I mean, okay, but look, okay, and all right, so look, okay, if you stick a knife in somebody because you think that's what needed to be done, then you shouldn't. I mean, if you're willing to do that, then you should also be willing to accept that, you know what, they're not gonna have nothing for me after this. Okay, they may not ever talk to me again after this. Even if I think I'm doing what was right or doing what needed to be done, you need to understand that ultimately you're sticking a knife in somebody's back, and they're not gonna forgive you, more than likely. Okay, and and then she's always one that likes to talk tough and act tough, like she doesn't care.
Right.
But there's times she did, and but I mean, no, look, there are some people who I think should, now the people I think should go, maybe not the same. Like Dick Durbin is useless. And for me, anybody who's still trying to think that we can play nice and we need to be bipartisan, blah blah blah. Like the average American voter doesn't give a damn about no bipartisanship. They don't care. Yeah. That's DC media talk. So for me, I'd say Crockett, Underwood, AOC, and as far as who to nominate for president in 2028, they're going, if they have any sense, they're going to find themselves a nice white man under the age of 60.
Well, I would say probably Josh Shapiro, probably a favorite. I would say Andy
I think
Bashir, be a favorite.
I think Bashir, yes.
And this is a name. I think Gavin Newsom's political career is probably in a major crossroad right now after the fires in California. I'm not saying it's his fault, but the political winds aren't really going his way right now.
Well, I think in 4 years, people won't care. So,
whoa! I wouldn't go that far, brother. We said about Gaza, and I told you Gaza was going to be an issue with this election, and it was clearly an issue.
That didn't cost her the election.
It sure hell didn't help her.
Maybe not, but it didn't cost her the election. The cost of the election is that the racist people got the bat signal went up for the racist people, and they came out and voted. That's what cost her the election. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Again, if you get more votes than Joe in North Carolina, and then more people come vote for Trump, okay. Again, the racist, transphobic bat signal went up, and because like they're a bunch of, and also look at the fact, I mean, even though she was vice president, she still didn't have the name recognition, right?
I don't doubt misogyny played a factor. I don't doubt racism played a factor. I've never not said that. What I push back on is that being the only thing is why she lost the election.
Well,
and I think when we do that, my problem is that when we do that, I feel like we put the Democratic Party, we give them a pass now because of that now. Instead of reflecting on their own errors and what they do.
Well, but what were they supposed to say? If the other guy says they're eating the dogs and people believe it, what are you supposed to say?
I mean,
what do you say? If the other guy says they're giving your kids sex change operations when they go to school and people believe it, what do you say to that? And let me give you another example. In 2012, when Obama was running for re-election in 2012, they were doing focus groups. They told the focus groups, they read exactly what Mitt Romney's policy proposals were. Okay, they told them to the focus groups. And you know what happened? They didn't believe it. They just didn't believe that he would actually do that. And so, you know what? They had to figure out something else. They had to figure out some other narrative to win the re-election because they didn't believe it. And so obviously they found the narrative. They went to the corporate raider. He comes into your town and buys the local factory and fires everybody. They went with that, and it worked. But they just people didn't believe. Again, they told the people what his policy proposals were. They told them that, and the people just didn't believe it. Okay, Sometimes that's just what it is. Because people don't vote on policy. People like to say they vote on policy. They're lying. Just like when people say they don't like dynasties in sports, and yet
they're still watching.
Well, when the TV ratings are the highest when there's a dynasty.
Of course.
Okay, like the Chiefs just now, there's the highest rated.
But I can argue that watching from the lose. I can argue that's probably.
But they still watch them though.
Still watching, right?
I mean, if Chiefs fatigue was a real thing, then people just wouldn't have watched. So
that's a nice pivot though.
People lie, man. I mean,
I get it, and I got it. So your point's very salient. I'm with you, but I'm glad you teased that here because the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. Your boys are 1 game short, man. The Commanders 1 game short. Look, you can't be mad about that now. Come on now.
Well,
I mean, let's be real. Eagles a better team. Commanders.
Well, I'm mad the way it went. Like we just got the shit kicked out of us. You know what I mean?
That game was closer than that score indicated. This bad turnovers in bad spots.
Yes. Especially like at the end of the first half.
Yes, the kickoff return after that killed you guys, I think.
Yeah. And no, I mean overall, overall, I'm very proud of them. And they got to the NFC Championship game. Look, I mean, we were just hoping they'd be 500.
Yeah.
Going in. And we were just hoping that Jaden would be a competent NFL starting quarterback.
And he might be a top 5 guy.
I think he's the best in the NFC right now. I mean, and
that conversation, yes.
Well, that's and that sounded crazy. I know because when I was thinking about it, it sounded crazy when I was thinking. When I first thinking, I was like, that can't be right. But then I went through all the names, and it's like, well, who's better?
I mean, the only two guys you've been considering in that conversation is Jalen Hurts and Matthew Stafford. That's it.
And I don't think anybody would take either one of them over him right now.
Nope.
So, and it's funny because I've debated with a couple of Steelers fans, because some Steelers, because there's some of them they want them to fire Tomlin, and I'm just like, well, Tomlin is rolling Justin Fields and Russell Wilson out there in a conference where you got Lamar and Josh and Mahomes and Burrow,
right?
And I mean,
and Herbert too, to some degree.
Yeah, and Herbert and CJ, and even you can throw Tua in there also. I mean, because Tua is better than what they have,
Yeah.
So I think because if you look at the last 3 years for the Steelers, they lost to Mahomes, they lost to Lamar, and they lost to Josh. So I mean, the last 3 playoff losses.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just is what it is, and because Bomani Jones, he made the case that Mahomes is basically Michael Jordan, and it's just going to be all these people who shouldn't have rings and just ain't going to get them.
Well, we'll find it. I mean, it looks like right now, so far, that is playing out that way so far.
Yeah, I mean, because Lamar, Josh, I mean, Burrow did beat him, but then they lost in the Super Bowl,
right?
So it's just the way it's. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's just. And look, as a Knicks fan, I had to go through that with Jordan and with Patrick. I mean,
I get it. Trust me.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I don't have Chiefs fatigue because to me, look, when somebody is truly doing something really excellent,
appreciate it.
Yes, and so yeah, I mean, he is. Look, if they get this one, then obviously, I think you got to wait till his career is over to say it officially. But I think if they get the 3-peat here, then you can start talking. You can start putting him. You can start saying best of all time. I think
because he's already top 3 all time.
Yeah,
he's rated 3.
For me, it's just he has to finish his career.
Right.
That's all for me.
It's just longevity. It's just time served at this point. Because right now,
Yeah.
your lock 3 is Brady, Montana, and Mahomes. In my opinion, whatever order you put it, I don't give a crap for the order, but your top 3 is those 3 guys at this point. And I'm already there.
I put Elway, and for me, I'm partial to Elway because I watched him and he drugged some. He took 3.
He did. No. He did. I'm always top 5 all time for me. However, what Mahomes is doing is more impressive than Elway what he's done. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah, because Elway could be a bit erratic, and he could. Yeah, I mean, he could. Yeah, right. But I think with Mahomes, it's a combination of physical talent and production.
Right.
Like
Brady, and not only that, with Mahomes, he's also done it both ways now. He did it with the elite talent with Tyreek Hill and Kelsey in his prime. Now Hill gone, Kelsey older, and they pivoted a little bit with the philosophy of their team, and they're still winning.
Yeah, because now it's just kind of keep it close, and he pulls it out for him, which is what Elway did.
Correct.
But he's got the physical ability of somebody like Elway, because like Brady and Montana, they weren't great physical specimens.
No.
But so he's got the physical ability of somebody like Elway, but then he also has the pulling it out, the game out like Brady and Montana did. So yeah, I mean he's got to finish he's got to finish his career before I say it officially. But he's on the trajectory to be
without question
greatest of all time.
My one fear of the Commanders is this though. One fear is that, and it kind of reminds me of what happened with Houston, Texas last year after CJ Stroud, is that now that they've done what they did this year, and look, rightly so, they deserve it. They he's my rookie of the year. This is the greatest rookie year I've ever seen by a quarterback, and I don't think it's even close. That next year the Commanders will be the sexy pick to win the NFC, win the division maybe, and they're on the radar a little bit now, and they kind of underwhelm. Now, the Texans this year, that team, in a sense, for me, well, last year, she Stroud rookie year, came out, guns blazing, they win the division, win a playoff game, the whole nine. Granted, this year, they did actually the exact same thing, but it felt underwhelming because the division was worse than it was last year. They still matched last year's win total. They still matched the results, win the playoff game, the whole nine, but it felt different. My fear is that next year the Commanders do the same thing, or if not worse. And because here's the thing, sophomore slumps are a thing. They are a thing. So I'm a little apprehensive, but I will say that to the Commanders' credit, though, from what I understand, I don't know the date on this yet. You may know this more than I do. They're gonna have cap room to spend money. When you nail the quarterback on year one, you have a lot of flexibility to win, and that opens your window before you have to pay Jane Daniels his max money.
Yeah. So it's just again, we know what the drill is. You have to get you got to get your championship before everybody else gets too expensive.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would expect like next year, maybe a little step back next year because again, people are gonna be ready for him. We'll have a harder schedule. Now again, we got a bunch of cap room, so we can upgrade some positions. So I mean, look, it might be a wash then. I mean, we might upgrade the team, and then that might cancel out whatever sophomore slump comes.
Right. All right. Before we get to the Royal Rumble preview, what do you make of this Hulk Hogan thing? Him getting booed out of the building at the Netflix on Raw Netflix debut weeks ago. What was it? I'm actually stunned that people are still shocked by this, given Hogan's history and what we've known him to be for the last 10 years and his image the last 10 years. How people are still stunned that he got booed the way he did.
Crowds are different now, man, because and at that kind of show, just people, there are obviously people there who know his whole history over the past 10 years.
And you and I have covered this on this podcast many times over about the Hulk Hogan, legacy and how we feel about it and whatnot.
Now I'm mystified as to why, whoever in the company decided it was a good idea to bring him out there. I'm kind of mystified as to what they're thinking.
Did you feel bad at all watching that?
No, I mean, look, I have made my peace with the fact. Look, I was a Hulkamaniac as a kid. I have some wonderful memories going to see Hulk Hogan with my dad. I have no problem watching Hulk Hogan matches, because
same.
No problem doing that, and I have no problem talking about his place in wrestling history and giving him his proper due for drawing money and for being a great performer. I have no problem with any of that.
Same.
I just, and I don't care to see him now, and for all the reasons we talked about. And for me, it's just real simple. Now look, I'm not surprised they do business with him because there's still business to be done. But it should, at conventions and with memorabilia and stuff like that. And they're a business, so if there's money to be made, they're going to do it. I'm surprised that they're not. I would figure they'd be a little more strategic about when they would use him.
He look. I have to admit. I and maybe I don't know if you look at wrestling the same way I do. Like when I watch the old stuff, and you and I do watch the old stuff still. When I saw that moment, I felt a little sorry for him. I felt weird about it too because again, when I watch Hulkamania era stuff to this day, I lose all sense of reality because I go back to that 8-year-old kid watching the Mega Powers explode, watching all this. So I kind of cease all reality. Like I'm able to separate the two. Hulk Hogan is probably the greatest superstar in history of the company. Terry Bollea is a racist prick.
Yeah. I mean, it just and look, we all pick and choose when we separate the artist from the person. Like sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Right.
And we're not consistent about it, you know. Because I listen to James Brown and Miles Davis. Miles Davis slapped the shit out of a whole lot of women.
Yeah.
And James Brown wasn't too nice to them either. Okay.
Right.
But I don't have any type of moral dilemma when the James Brown record comes on. Right. But on the other hand, if R. Kelly comes on the radio, I'm like, turn that shit off.
Yeah.
So we're not consistent. I don't claim to be.
It is what it is.
I mean, with him, I'm able to compartmentalize it with him. And look, if anybody wants to criticize me for that, then hey, I'll take it. I'll eat it.
Well, by the way, in case WWE did not learn a lesson about the Hulk Hogan not being popular, I'm gonna play a clip from I think a week after that Hogan incident, where CM Punk was actually announcing his entry to Royal Rumble, and he mentioned Hulk Hogan's name, and listen to the reaction that he got from the crowd. Let me see, play here.
You put Hulk Hogan in the Royal Rumble, I'll throw his dusty ass over the top rope, and I'll kill Hulkamania once and for all. You put Hulk Hogan in the Royal Rumble, I'll throw his dusty ass over the top rope, and I'll kill Hulkamania once and for all.
Wow. And I heard that Hogan and him have beef, actually. Oh, he has beef with Hogan.
Probably.
From years back.
Oh, probably. I mean,
yeah, I saw a thing, actually, Rob. So I guess in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, the Tampa Bay Lightning hockey team and the Blackhawks hockey team either played a series or a game or something in the NHL. Now Hogan's from Tampa, obviously.
Yeah.
CM Punk, Phil from Chicago. CM Punk is from Chicago as well. And Hogan, Punk did call out Hogan, in a shoot. As some interview I saw online 2-3 days ago. And I don't know if it got back to Hogan. I'm sure Hogan's seen it, and I'm sure there's some heat between those two guys. So the crowd cheered when Punk said that because, again, they don't like Hogan, and it's clear that the WWE Universe is telling you that we don't like this guy. Now, if I'm the WWE and I'm Hogan, you want Hogan to be around, it's fine, no problem. Lean into it, make him NWO or something. I don't know.
I wouldn't send him out there in front of crowds. I mean, I think, look, you send them to conventions, and there's still people who want to take their picture with Hulk Hogan, or people who want an autograph from Hulk Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
Let them, I would, have them do that, or, and you sell Hulk, and there are people who will buy Hulkamania t-shirts and all that, sell the t-shirts on the shop or whatever, I mean, I just, at this point, they need to be more. Mm-hmm. Somebody needs to smarten up, but I think also this is kind of a byproduct of them being now part of that UFC world, because UFC they have no tact at all. They just they still send very problematic people out there, and, without even thinking about it, and in front of their crowd, it's not a problem. But I think, because I think, the WWE audience is, I think it's more liberal than I think people in charge. Well, they're definitely more liberal than the management, the audience.
I would say, yeah. I mean, I might. I think it's more. If I had to put a percentage ratio on that one, I'd probably put 60-40 liberal to conservative, maybe 60-40.
Well, put it this way, because UFC is MAGA.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay, and boxing is MAGA, very MAGA heavy. And then, so I think it's definitely it's not that. I mean, a lot of it is just because there are more kids, and and then more families, and then there are more women in the WWE audience, and all of that. So, but I think sending Hogan out there, sending Hogan out in front of a crowd right now is a bad idea. I think, and somebody there needs to wake up and understand that.
Right. All right. Let's get to Rumble itself now. So far, we have 4 matches. The 2 Rumble matches, of course, women's and men's match, and then we have 2 other matches here.
Yeah.
First off, we got the 2 out 3 falls match for the WWE Tag Team Championship between DIY, which is of course Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, versus the Motor City Machine Guns of Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Who wins?
I think Machine Guns get this one, and I think ultimately we're headed to like some type of 3-way extravaganza with them and the Street Profits at WrestleMania. I think.
Is that you looking forward to that or no?
Man, it's weird because on this card, just given the nature of the other matches, it's almost criminal to call this a bathroom break match. But just given what the other 3 matches are, if there's a take a break match during the show, it's this one, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only really 4 matches right now. Maybe a 5th one we announced. We'll see what happens there. All right. We have the ladder match for the Undisputed WWE Championship. Both the Undisputed and Winged Eagle title will be suspended above the ring between Cody Rhodes, the champion, versus Kevin Owens. First off, how do you feel about the Winged Eagle belt being back in our lives again? You like it?
I like it. I like it. I like the way it's being used.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Yeah, it is.
Oh my god. No shot. Kevin wins his match. This is Cody filling time to Mania.
Man. See, because
really?
all right. Okay, I think just push come. Yeah, I would like to see Kevin win because I think this is an opportunity to kind of shake things up with Cody, and he could win it back. He could always win it back a month later or something.
Shock the system a little, if you will. Yeah.
But I think Triple H is very straightforward with how he books stuff. Particularly like the top titles. He's very straightforward. So, I think Cody wins.
Yeah. All right. We have the Women's Rumble. So far, we have, let me see here. We have 10 of the 30 entries that have been announced as of today. Nia Jax, Bayley, Charlotte Flair, your girl, of course, Naomi, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Lara Vacaria, Ivy Nile, and Io Sky so far in this match. Who wins?
Okay, so they've only built a narrative with one person. As far as the only person they built any type of narrative is with Charlotte.
Right.
Like nobody else has any type. None of the other women.
This is her return, right? This is her return.
Yeah, this is her big return, and they are, with these vignettes and everything, they're making it into a big deal, and
as they should.
And right now, none of those other women have any kind of story, really, as far as the match itself. They're just in there. So if it's not her, I think if it's not her, then if Becky comes back as surprise entrant, I think it's going to be one of them too. It's going to be one or the other.
Any shot that reheat Bianca here or no?
She's showing entrenched in this tag team thing right now,
right.
And if they had lost the tag team titles tonight, then maybe. But he's so entrenched in this thing, and then there's the whole thing with who attacked Jade and all of that hasn't been resolved. It's just, I think, because if you had her win, then now you that. Yeah, it would. You have to go. Basically fix a bunch of other stuff, right? So I think it wouldn't make a lot of sense for her to win it here. Now she's a big enough name where you can never say never, but and I wouldn't be totally shocked if she won. But it doesn't seem like they haven't built a narrative to point to her winning.
Right. Well, you just teased it, but Becky could be the surprise entry in this thing, right? Any other surprises?
Well, they haven't. I'm just throwing that out there. As far as anybody else, Jade may come back. But she's not gonna win.
Right.
Honestly, I think it's either gonna be Charlotte, Becky, or Bianca. Might be. It's gonna be one of those 3. So we're gonna have our first 2-time winner on the women's side this year.
Right. Okay. All right. Men's side. So far, 15 to 30 have been announced. They are LA Knight, John Cena, CM Punk, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Rey Mysterio, Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, Logan Paul, Penta, newly to WWE now, Chad Gable, Braun Breaker, and Carmelo Hayes. I'll be honest with you, this is an open-ended one here for me because any of these guys, I think anybody from Roman to Jey Uso to Punk to Seth to even Drew could win this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and seeing it, and this is the difference because like all those guys have stories, right? Mm-hmm. Roman, Punk, Seth, Drew, Sami Zayn has a story going in. Logan Paul even has one, going in now. And so, you could there's a scenario in which any one of those guys could possibly win.
Yeah.
Now who do I think is going to win? I think it's either going to be Roman or Punk. I think. Yeah.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think this is one of the most intriguing men rumbles we're going to see in a while because of the potential of so many different guys that could win.
Yeah,
you can make a case of a lot of those guys. You can case about most that list to win it.
Because I think this is the most loaded it's been. Like 2017, they had Brock and Goldberg and the Undertaker and all three guys in the Shield and Braun Strowman when he was hot. I think this is like the most loaded men's field as far as guys who you could see winning. I think this is the most loaded men's field since then. And Randy Orton was in that one. Randy Orton ended up winning that one.
Right. So it should be a good rumble, man. It should be a really good rumble. And of course, winner of those rumbles will have a chance will have a choice to choose their opponent at WrestleMania for the title. Which WrestleMania, by the way, is much like Rumble being in February, WrestleMania this year is going to be mid-April.
Yeah.
Weird, huh?
I don't know what. I don't know why the schedule is so off.
I feel like the only thing I can think of is that them trying to counter March Madness. Not counter March Madness.
Stay away from it. Or
right, yeah. It's the only thing I can think of though. But hey, Rob, thanks for the podcast, man. It's great.
Hey man, good to be back as always.
Yes, sir. Want to plug anything?
Well, as always, you can catch us on the Mindless Wrestling Podcast every week. And whenever I get around to doing another episode, you can hear me.
I'm checking right now, see the last time I did episode. I'm looking right now the date. I know you dropped them recently. I can't remember exactly what day it was. Last episode you dropped was
maybe a couple of weeks ago, I think.
January 14th.
Yeah.
January 14th. You should go do an episode about reviewing the Commander season, talk about Jane Daniels' bright future, top 5 quarterback in the league, that kind of thing.
That's not a bad idea because I don't spend an hour on that either. So.
Yeah, it's fresh in your mind too, also, brother. So you can check it out, of course, at Robert James Podcast. Of course, he's 1/3 of the Mindless Wrestling Podcast. I love wrestling as well too. Also, tell DJ and Jason say hi. As always.
Will do.
All right, brother. Good job as always, man.
Thanks, man.